Welcome back to Shat on TV Westworld Edition. This is Roger Roper, and this episode is a very special edition of Shat on TV. Gene and I were fortunate enough to get Ptolemy Slocum, the actor who portrayed Sylvester, our favorite red smock in the show. And over the next hour and 15 minutes, we talked a wide range of topics. Ptolemy is an extremely intelligent guy and had just had a blast with him. And we talk a lot about his background. He gives a lot of really good life advice, and we talk Westworld, and we talk some behind the scenes stuff. So again, our hats off. We definitely want to thank Ptolemy for taking the time. Also, don't forget that we have our new Shat on TV review show for Taboo FX upcoming in January. I believe the first airing of Taboo FX is on January 10th. And then following right after that, we have American Gods. And we just did Home Alone over at Shat the Movies. And we're going to do another Christmas movie before the season ends. So just because Westworld is over doesn't mean that we stop providing content. We hope to do more interviews with some of the actors from Westworld, as well as our other content on Shat on TV. So again, make sure you download and subscribe to American Gods and Taboo FX, and also Shat the Movies. It's a lot more fun. And we hope that you enjoy this Shat on TV interview with Ptolemy Slocum. Lewis Hertham, cue the music.
Hi, folks. This is Lewis Hertham, the original Peter Abernathy. Hell is empty and all the devils are here on the Shat on TV Westworld podcast with Roger, Gene, and Big B.
Welcome back to Shat on TV Westworld Edition, the unofficial podcast companion piece to the hit HBO television series Westworld. My name is Roger Roper. Alongside me is my co-host, Gene Lyons.
Good evening.
And this is a very, very, very special edition of Shat on TV because we have one of our favorite actors, one of our favorite characters from season 1, Mr. Ptolemy Slocum, also known as Sylvester.
Hey, guys. Oh,
Woo!
Are we clapping for me?
That's right.
That's what it sounds like.
I hope people at home are also like slightly clapping to themselves.
That's right. That's right. We request our fans to applause.
Yeah. We work off the live audience here, so please applaud. That's not my dog. Whoever.
That's mine.
You.
I'm the jerk. I'm the jerk who's got the 2 dogs.
Nice. Because you made me turn off the AC behind me. Turns out you have a dog. So
I do. Yeah. They're very cute. But anyway, just, again, want to thank you for, taking the time out of your schedule. I know you're busy. I know you get a lot of requests to do this, so appreciate that. So just diving right in doing our research for the podcast and having you on, we noticed, according to your IMDb page and your AMA that you did on Reddit, which, by the way, was fantastic.
Oh, thanks.
You were born in Nairobi, Kenya.
Yeah. And
you're named after a Greco-Egyptian astronomer, Claudius Ptolemy. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about how you made it all the way from Kenya to Hollywood.
Well, planes, first of all. I want to specify the mode of transportation. Our family was there working on a project. That project went south, and then we were in Cincinnati. Then my parents divorced, and then I ended up in a small town in Northern California and grew up in like this suburb of farms. And I get the sense with the name Ptolemy, my parents were I'm hoping they don't listen to this. My parents were thinking like, oh, we're gonna have like a nice life set up, because it's kind of a cocky name. And it turns out I grew up in a farming town in the middle of nowhere in Central California, and they did not react well to the name. So it did not go well for me. I had red hair, I had freckles, I had a name like Ptolemy, and they called me Tamale, Toilet Paper Me, Twatomy. It was bad. And in fact, in elementary school, we took the P off of the name. It was just Tolemy, and I put it back in middle school because middle school is not already hard enough.
I remember when I moved to California from Arizona for work in newspapers, and I thought like it was going to be all the beach and like coastal living and stuff. And I ended up in Marysville, like an hour north of Sacramento. And I was like, this is not what I imagined.
It's Iowa in the middle of like California.
It's like a really expensive Iowa. So Sylvester's job in the body shop, speaking of not very glamorous, was far from glamorous. So what are some of the real world jobs you've had growing up or while you were struggling as an actor?
Oh, man. I mean, growing up was much worse than struggling as an actor. The struggling as an actor stuff, I actually interned when I first got to New York at HBO, which is fascinating, in the marketing department of all things. And so they had their own like temp program. So that was actually like, I didn't mind most of the jobs. I had like these off like temping jobs when I was like struggling as an actor. When I was growing up, things were dark. Like I was in a rough area. Man, like some of the worst was also temping, but in that area, like blue collar temping is brutal. I remember working a couple days at this. This was also outside of Cincinnati because I would go there in the summers, and then we lived there at the end of my high school days. But one of the jobs was cleaning up fire and water damage. You go into houses with these blowers and blow out like either water damage or try to clean up fire damage. It does nothing. It does nothing. It smells horrible. We're just like a cosmetic, like, look, we brought a bunch of stuff to your house. It is sad and depressing. The worst job I ever had was working for this plastics factory outside of Cincinnati. Basically, I showed up. I was a little tiny, scrawny high school kid, and I look around, and all these dudes that worked there were these massive men working at like a molten plastics factory. It was not going to go well. So the first job I was given, I couldn't even complete because you had to unscrew this thing, and it took more strength than I owned in my person. And I was like, I literally cannot do this job. And so they had this huge man like come over, do my job, and move me to this, I guess, more skills-oriented role in which I had to grab a cube, one of those like plastic cubes, buy the molten plastic outside the cube, and hack off the ends of the molten plastic from the container. And I had these like cotton gloves on. They weren't that good. And I remember I was drinking water, and I spilled water onto the gloves. And let me tell you, water transmits heat. So I grabbed this, I accidentally spilled water, like, oh, I spilled water in my glove. Grab this molten plastic and sear my entire hand. I burned my entire hand. I had internal bleeding in my elbow from trying to like hack this thing with a big wrench. And I lasted less than 1 day at this place, and I was a broken human being.
Wait, this was all in the same day?
That was 1 day. 1 day. And that was the easier job than I started with. I burned both my hands eventually, and I had internal bleeding. I didn't know you could have, I ruptured a vein in my, in the inside of my elbow.
Holy smokes.
Yeah, it wasn't a good job.
Well, I listened to your Eccentric Earth podcast that you released earlier this year with fellow actor and improvisational artist Mike Birbiglia. And this was all, in anticipation of his movie Don't Think Twice, which is now out on DVD and Blu-ray. It's a fantastic movie. If you haven't seen it, it's kind of a love story for improv. And in it, you tell the story of how you and Mike have known each other since college in D.C.
Yep.
and even worked together in New York. I have two questions about that. The first one, you tell a story how you worked together on a movie, and because you were friends, there were times where you just wanted to kill each other over that. And there have been times on this podcast over the last 10 weeks that we've been covering Westworld, we're three friends that do this podcast together. Like it's been a true labor of love. Why do you think friends that get engaged in a project together eventually at some point want to kill each other when they're doing artistic endeavors?
Well, first of all, I hope that you haven't wanted to kill me yet. Like, we have just started, literally just started. Yes, this is a good question. It's a good question about any kind of creative endeavor, and it's an interesting question about improvisation or anything you learn. I have never done anything where most of the shit you have to work on is the actual project. Almost 80% of everything you do is like having humans work together in a successful way. And then when you add any kind of creativity to it, you're not only trying to function with another person, but you're functioning kind of with how they identify with their self, with their own idea of self. So these questions that you're dealing with, it's not a project that is outside of you. Some of these questions happen to do with the way that they define themselves, the way you define yourself. It gets down to aesthetics. And so when you have little arguments, they're not little arguments. You're literally arguing with your friends about how they believe they are as human beings. And what you're saying is like, no, you're wrong as a human, right? And so it gets very heated for almost no reason. but it's not no reason. Like, these are important things to us. They're actually more important than even the outcome because they're how we define ourselves. So any kind of creative stuff, and I work with improv teams, or like I've been in improv theaters for a long time, but a lot of it is being forced to work with 8 or however many people are in your improv group, but having to work with that many people on a creative basis is most of your education. Some of it is the improvisation, but a lot of it is how do you hold people together that are working on something that's creative? And it's not easy. It's a life lesson.
Thank you for that. It helps to know that like we're not alone in this.
Yeah, I feel like this turned into a therapy session for the podcast, actually, because you just got to the core of the conflict we've been having for like the last month. That's some brilliant advice.
Yeah, and it's tough. And what you might want to do if you're looking for advice, I can't tell if you're saying stop giving me advice or this is advice. But one thing you might want to do is consider that. And this also happens in relationships when you're married to someone, because you'll run into like things that define them as a human being. But in moments like this, consider this, because things that sound petty to you, they only sound petty to you. So just consider that when you're having arguments with people that you thought that you liked, you might be wrong, but you also might be insensitive. You might be thinking to you, this is not a big deal, but you might not be considering what it actually means to them, what you're actually having an argument about. So just consider it.
We'll definitely have to take this. I hope Big D will listen to this and take advice as well. Because for me, I mean, now I know how I'm going to approach conversations. Because when you think about it, doing a podcast essentially is, it's an hour and a half long improv, right? I mean, yeah, there's notes and there's an outline, but it truly is an improv exercise. There's a lot of, improvisational theories that we take, to that. But, talking about improv actors, which are traditionally known, thanks to shows like Whose Line Is It Anyway, are known as comedians. But now you're seeing a lot of Hollywood, projects involve improv actors such as yourself. Why do improv actors have the ability to cross over to success in dramatic roles?
Maybe because they're good at it. I mean, talent is found in different ways, and improv is just like one of those ways. But some of these improv people, they are just good. So it wouldn't have even been improv. I think your question is more in the direction of like, what does improv teach? Is that kind of what you're asking? Like, what are the principles of improv that are brought out that allow people to be successful? Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So for me, I mean, and this is also not just on an acting level, but on a writing level, is the practice of life itself. So incorporating the living element that's at the end of you imagine a project has the bones of the project, which is the concept, and then the meat and the organs and the flesh, and then at the very edge is the actor, the skin of that project, right? But on all of those levels, when you're executing that thing, you want it to have life. It has to have a living element, and especially as an actor, what my job is to bring literally a living entity to something that is incredibly fake, incredibly false, and almost like it works against being alive in that moment. So all of the lights, where you have to stand, what you say, all of these things are working so much against you and are so unreal that really your main focus is to be living, to be a living thing, to bring actual life to that moment. Does that make sense? Now we deal with improvisation, which is a study between yourself and the way that you live, the way that your brain creates information, the way that a moment is almost breathed through for you, the speed of your brain in relation to like, this is real for me. That kind of stuff is very healthy. It's almost like a karate, but instead of practicing to fight someone, you're just learning the systems of your own body. Like, what is real for you? How do you breathe? How do you go through these moments? And the more you kind of analyze that, or you strengthen that relationship in your brain, the easier it is for you to be alive in moments that wouldn't normally be alive. And it doesn't just apply to acting. It applies to even writing or creating. It's like, what is life here? How would I be that, or how would I say that? And if you can create a personal relationship to that, you can accomplish the thing that we need to out of most of these jobs. Was that an answer?
Holy shit, yes. That was amazing. Smart guy. So Ptolemy, you were previously with the improv theater, Upright Citizens Brigade, and People's Improv Theater in New York City, and now you're with the Nerdist School. In the past years, improv and comedy as an art form has evolved to now exist outside the theater and infiltrate digital content on every platform. So what effect has the internet, if any, had on comedy?
Oh, the end of that question did not seem where it was going at the beginning of that question. Good question, though. We're talking about like internet comedy, and the medium of internet has changed our relationship to it, not only information, but even the flow of how we entertain ourselves, which is fascinating. Anytime you get pretty like tectonic shift of that nature, there's going to be good and bad in it. It's going to improve us as human beings. There's going to be parts of it that evolve and parts of us that devolve. But it's the same as like a vaudeville, like in New York, or that eventually took over the language of comedy, and then vaudeville translated into the early television shows, and television took that vaudeville style and changed it because television is a different way in which we communicate with the medium of what it is. And now we're in a totally different world. It is, and so to answer your question, the internet in general has made things much faster. There is good and bad to faster. But it has also changed our relationship to the kind of like improvised, like what life is. So the celebration, like I think memes are a new style of entertainment that we're taking in as creatures that respond to us. There's something magical in that thing that we are going through, and we've never seen anything like it before because it's propagation of a shared moment. Now, most entertainment is propagation of a shared moment, but think about the minutia that we're getting into now that still translates as comedy, which is, a small boy saying the word turtle or something, like these are not what you would ever create for comedy. But what they are, they stimulate us, and now we have a shared experience. So it's a type of comedy that is almost detached from the creator. It is more of the observer. And sometimes you luck into that, and then other times you try to corporatize that, where you have people that are trying to you're trying to recreate that feeling. And it's so disgusting and sad and so false. But that has always been our process of trying to commodify what we naturally react to as human beings. So we're in an interesting back and forth because the medium, the way that we're taking in information is new to us, new to all of us. And I think it's such a wild and fun and interesting space right now. And it's still, it accelerates, like the sad part about the speed, and that's not always necessarily true. That's our first reaction to it is like make things faster, make things like, make them tighter, like everybody needs to like swallow it right away. And things are actually not necessarily going in that direction, longer term. Like you'll see things that are slower that react against it. And so it really has just made a kind of like a canvas that the more like we're obsessively filling up this canvas much faster than we filled up anything in our past. And that means everything was so fast and so funny and so weird for a long period of time. And now that area of the canvas is so packed with things that people are moving over to the other area of this canvas, which is even slower, sometimes even like slightly creative, more honest. Like people want something real. So once we're given a new medium, the first thing that we need is safety. And so you'll see very thin. God, guys, I'm going on and on. Is this?
No. This is great.
Because you look at like the phases in music where you have like a version of like where in sync is necessary. Like it's a horrible thin relationship to the media because our brains can't move that fast. So we need something that's simple, that can entertain us and we can grab a hold of, and then that medium becomes more and more interesting. So that kind of pop music becomes our indie phase that we're in now. That's much more interesting music and is still propagated as much as that shit was. But the same thing is happening with the internet, where at first it was so intense and so fast that we had a very thin relationship to it. But I think we're kind of turning to a relationship to the internet and to comedy on the internet that can have a stronger like back and forth. It's not as conditioned response. It's like testing things, like actually like feel something. And I think it'll get better. But right now it's kind of like watching people shit as fast as they can. It sometimes feels like that. You know what I mean? But it's getting better. I think that's because it's so new to us.
Yeah, like at a sports event or a concert, you want to shit as fast as you can and then get back, right? Like you don't want to linger. You don't want to or at a campsite.
Good option. Two good options, guys.
Right. So you currently run the Nerdist School next to Meltdown Comics there in LA.
Yep.
Are there any courses for amateur podcasters to improve their skills as recap show hosts? Perhaps a how to be a Hardwick 101?
Yeah, that's a good question. I was hoping that you would ask this because I've only known you for exactly 19 minutes and 17 seconds, but you could use these classes. No, we actually have.
That's actually on our iTunes reviews. If you search our reviews, although this guy needs some classes. Yeah. This is a real question. I need help.
It around 19 minutes. Well, doing it. First of all, you're doing it correctly. Do it. Like you'll take in some information from other people, but the person that will always teach you the best is you. So the fact that we're talking over a podcast, you're already in the right place. That being said, so we actually have a podcast in our theater. Times are different for these theaters. So we are partnered with Nerdist and we are constantly pitching shows. They just started this alpha program where it's kind of live streaming content, and they have a public access kind of show that's going on Sunday nights where it's like throw anything against the wall, and we have our students that are like now pitching for that. So we're trying to convert them into shows. So the video side of things is going to be much bigger, and that's kind of almost, even though it's a theater, that's going to be where things are going. So we're trying to build a curriculum around, not only where we're at now, but where we're going. Similarly, we have a podcast booth right behind the theater. It's really like nice internal, like Nerdist style podcast booth. We're renting that out to people, and we're starting classes on that. There's voiceover classes, but then it'd be interesting to have a podcast class. But we have a little network that we've started, and a lot of that is just getting people access to this equipment, and a lot of that is doing it yourself. We'll start having classes, but the most important thing is to provide that as an option for people, because similar to what you're doing, you will learn a lot by your own like failures. I think the Hardwick thing is a joke at the end of that question.
It was. We're big Hardwick fans. I mean, okay. Listen, Chris is great.
And that is a man who did the exact same thing, learned by doing, like just constantly. Yeah. Doing, like I'm just going to make this better. I'm going to identify what I'm doing, who is responding to this. Like it is he just has a great craftsmanship and a joy for life. I mean, there's a lot of elements in there that a class wouldn't teach you. I mean, I guess some of these things would teach you, but you can teach yourself. But he's a good model for being alive right now, I think.
So, Ptolemy, it was recently announced that Westworld had the highest ratings ever for an HBO original series, season 1. Did you expect that it not only be a hit here in the States, but also around the world?
The around the world thing is amazing. It's fascinating. The Twitter thing is really, really cool to be connecting with human beings that are sitting anywhere. I really love that. The around the world thing, I didn't even consider, but it's super fun. As for the show, it was an interesting journey. I think, a lot of people kind of started to write off the show by the time it was over. And what I mean by the time it's over is that this show, we were working on this thing in 2014. That's a long time ago. And so something that's going on that long, I think people naturally have an inclination to be like, oh, there's something wrong with that. So like there's all these like amazing people involved in it. It's maybe some kind of like vanity project. Maybe it was so overwrought that they couldn't like handle the size of it. I mean, maybe it's like an Icarus type thing where you can't make something this large on TV. And a lot of people were, I believe, like what I was sensing is that they were starting to be like, well, I mean, it'll be something. And even myself, like I never read a script. I only saw our scenes and I was like, what the fuck is this thing? I like to describe it as like being in the bottom of a cruise ship and you're like, this cruise ship's going somewhere. I have no idea where it's going. I don't even know like what's above us or below us. I've met the people in charge. It seems like there's good captains, but who the hell knows where we're going? And this cruise ship also was like all over the place. It was like some days it would be like, hey, are you available tomorrow? Because the cruise ship's coming by. So it's like, what? What if I wasn't available? So it was a wild ride on this huge vessel. But man, seeing it, when you watch that show, it's so purposeful and it knows exactly what it is. None of this stuff, like no one talks about that anymore, that it took 2 years to make one season. That is not okay in America to take that long, to really gestate something. That's not our style. And so we assume it was going to be some kind of failure. But that show knows itself and it executes itself. Watching as a fan, I was like, damn, that was pretty good. Certainly really well put together. Fascinating show. It even had its own voice. Like, it was awesome.
Are these answers all too long? I don't know.
No, they're wonderful. No, by all means. We love it. You talk about like that long form stuff, and I feel people seek out podcasts traditionally because they want a more real conversation. They don't want the old, school, late show, 8-minute scripted response that's written by a PR person, right? They want a real, genuine conversation. And I think that's why podcasts have resonated, especially in recap shows, right? Who would have ever thought that 3 guys talking about a show would have ever been a success? But they're huge. There were like over 30 podcasts just reviewing Westworld alone.
Yeah.
But talking about Westworld, why do you think that the characters Felix and Sylvester would be so embraced by the fans?
First of all, I want to go on record just stating that I did not know that Sylvester was such a dickhead. I was not aware. I thought that I was playing him like, oh, this guy's understandable. Like, he's working literally with fucking idiots. Like, he's like, dude, stop, shut up. Like, this is stupid. What the? So there's a couple reasons. One, because Sylvester's such a cool guy. No, he was pretty dickish. When I watched the show, I was like, oh, that guy's an asshole. So I get that. I get there's like a lot of like some anger at Sylvester, but I understood him at least. The thing about those two guys is this show is populated with these titans, these massive creatures of insane intellect or insane power or just like very powerful individuals that have all these like this shit going on. And then there's these two guys who have none of that. They are not that intelligent. They are not that powerful. They are witnessing. They're bearing witness to some shit that's certainly above them and both literally above them and actually like for their own brains, like a little bit too much for them. And so the relatability is there just because in some ways that is, even as a viewer, that is my relationship to the show of like, what the fuck why is that happening? What is happening? Why is this happening? And I still, like, especially after seeing the finale, I even relate more to this poor Sylvester individual because that shit's not normal. We're not looking at a normal period of time. And it makes sense for people to be like, wait a second. And that's the same exact thing that these characters are going through. So in some ways, they represent the audience. And but they also represent the audience in a time period where things are not going normally. So I do believe that Sylvester had a plan. He really did genuinely believe he was in control, and he was 100% wrong, but he meant well. Like the things made sense. Because I think we find out, like in my estimation of like what the ending is that Anthony Hopkins was fucking with things the entire time. Like he was screwing with Maeve's shit. Like I don't know. There's no possible way this dude Sylvester could have ever kept up with something that complex. So for me, oh wait, the question was not even what I'm answering.
No. It's good because from a consensus perspective here on Shat on TV, we were like, well, Sylvester's like the guy who gets it. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like he's the employee who's like, dude, like what you're doing is completely against all the rules. Like, why are you doing this? Like, you're going to ruin a good thing. Like, just stop what you're doing.
Yeah, and I think there are people that he is like a living internet troll. I will give him that. And I did know that. Like when you're in you're in the comment section, and we'll check the comment section of this podcast. But there are people that are like, I feel better when I'm shitting on things. Listen, there are people out there like that, and he's like that. I get it. But he's a real, like, this is literally like what he's going through. At least he's being honest with his shit. And he doesn't know that there's cameras there. So, he's kind of being a little too honest, and he's like a shitty workmate. But I do believe he cares about this Felix guy, because Felix has always been, if you think about it, his audience. Like, he would come in days and be like, hey, guess what I did? You know what I mean? Like, he's just that kind of asshole. So I think he's just trying to do the best he can.
So diving a little deeper into that, so Felix and Sylvester had, great chemistry on screen, and the two of you seem to have fun off screen as well. And he showed up in your AMA. Did you know Leonardo Nam prior to Westworld, or did you meet on set?
Oh, no, we met on set. I mean, you're also looking at, like, we've been friends for, 2.5 years now, yeah. Because it's been so long. But, man, he and I were so in the dark. Like, when you go through, like, not necessarily, like, traumatic, but, like, a mysterious event like this, because he and I were hired, we didn't even know what was happening that first day on that pilot. We're like, what? Do you know anything? No, I don't know anything. Do you know anything? So you just kind of grab onto each other, and you're dealing with this environment that is way beyond you. The whole season was so great because it's so easy to be those characters because of the way they structured it, and because I had no idea what was happening. Similar to the whole Sylvester thing, that is exactly like I go in there and I do the thing I was talking about before, which is just like, be yourself, man, because you have no idea what's going on. You don't know what's going on. You know this is fucked up. It's fucked up. So just do that. And that's how the two of us were. We're like, every moment, we're like, we don't know what's happening. And we just had each other. And he's such a delightful guy. And he actually is, like, kind of different than me in a similar way. Like, I'm a little louder and he's, like, kind of nicer. He's into, like, meditation. I've started meditating, so I'm getting better. But it's just been like, when you go through something that is that much of an adventure with someone, you become friends real fast. And It's delightful. I really like that guy.
One of the things that Sylvester seemed to, constantly worry about his job, and he seemed to mock Felix for trying to improve his skills.
Yeah.
And try and get a promotion. What we as a podcast, consensually, we were like, well, it's obvious to us that maybe Sylvester, from a script perspective, is trying to tell the audience that he doesn't believe people can change or should change. But do you believe that people are trapped in their daily loops, or do you think that we can change, right? It's kind of like that philosophical question.
Again, not where I thought that question would end up. Okay, so you mean more in like the bigger picture? Like, can we change fundamentally as people?
Yeah, I think that was one of the major themes that we at least got from the show, is that we're stuck in loops, and how do you break your loops, and should you break your loops? And
that's so interesting because you could pick a random, much smaller theme and talk about it for a long period of time. What was the one I was talking about just today? Oh man. But it's like, oh yeah, that's not even like one of the major themes. It's like a minor theme, and it's just so interesting. You could talk about it for a long time. Can people change? I mean, I think the idea that we have elements of a computer to our brain is just so obvious. And this show does kind of you can't watch the show without touching some element of you, like, man, I'm kind of programmed myself. What's the deal here? My favorite is the music. When they do this Radiohead stuff, I'm a Radiohead guy. And when I hear this stuff, or like the Led Zeppelin or whatever, you have to bring your own emotional baggage with that, or your own history with that. And it goes through it kind of fucks with your own programming of like, stop it. I'm trying to watch this show, but I have memories from this song, and it's kind of irritating. It almost seems like they're just going for like cheap entertainment to try to get you involved. But what they're actually doing is kind of screwing with your own programming. So, yeah, we're all programmed. I love that. It's fascinating. I love that part of the show. Question is, can people actually change? I do not know. That I'm working on myself, because I think here's the issue with changing is every moment we are alive, we're putting energy into something, whether we think we are or not. So it's kind of like this, like grains of sand that are like falling through, like in a fish tank. These grains of sand are time, and wherever you're putting your energy, it kind of grooves that. Like, these things build up over time. And so these habits that we have over long periods of time, even when we're doing nothing, that habit is continuing to reinforce itself. So to overcome these things is such a moment of heroism. Then little small things like I've been going on walks and now I'm walking. So same thing with meditating. Like I've been avoiding meditating because not only does it change us, but we don't know what that change is going to be. So not only is positive change hard, it reminds us of actual death, of actually dying, because it's the same thing as dying. It's an unknown. It's a part of our brain that part of your brain wants to stay alive, and it's very difficult. And you don't know what you're going to be on the other side, even if it's positive change. So that sense of change, like there's so much working against us. So I'm going to say this to answer you is a good mode of operation is absolutely. There is nothing that can stop you, nothing. It is much harder than you think it is, and it just takes a period of time. And you do not need to change yourself now. You just need to set a correct path and allow that correct path to build over time. And just do it slowly. Do not demand a lot of yourself, and you can change. And number two, no one else can change. And I only say that because people want other people to change, or people see the goodness in other people and they're like, oh, maybe he can do this or do that. Just take that people are what they say they are and allow them to be that and work on yourself. Does this make sense? Is that an answer? That would seem like a big question.
No, it's a great question. I mean, it's a great answer. Great answer.
It's a great answer for a big question. So absolutely. Rewinding a bit to talking about music again, Ptolemy. In Westworld, music was meta. On a plot level, the songs mattered because they influenced the host, but they also, as you mentioned, influenced the audience. It had an impact on the viewers.
Yeah.
What song would best tell Sylvester's story, and what songs are currently on your personal playlist?
God, what would Sylvester be? Man, I could tell. Oh man, this is horrible. I try to like this person, Sylvester, but I think like Sylvester's the kind of dude that like in the 90s, if he was alive in the 90s, I don't know exactly how the timeline works, but he would be like, oh man, have you heard this Limp Bizkit? Holy crap, those guys, they speak me. So like, oh, that's so sad. But I think he would also like have a playlist at home for like, aren't I an interesting guy? And it would also delve into like Radiohead, Sigur Rós, like all of that shit. But he would kind of get it. He wouldn't completely get it, but he would know that it's better music than he understands. So he would play it a lot to kind of like try to like be cool. Oh man, that's sad about him. Personally, due to a crumbling sense of nation and the world that we live in, I've gotten back into music. And music is very hard sometimes for creative people because it makes you very emotional. But I have actually gotten literally back into music since November, which is interesting. I like stopped listening as much to the news and started allowing music to hit me again. So I'm kind of re-exploring things that's new. So a lot of it is like Spotify. The channel that I'm on right now that is an absolutely insane channel you wouldn't think is setting up a Spotify channel or like for Clap Your Hands and Say Yeah. It's a random band, but then they play like Neutral Milk Hotel. They'll play like a bunch of interesting shit. And that stuff makes me both sad and activated. So I don't know. That's where I'm at now. I'm just like trying to get back into music. My brother-in-law, my wife's brother, lives in New York and is like much younger than me, and sometimes literally sends us music, which is such a sad old man thing. But that music is fucking great, and I have no connection to it, but I love that shit. So keep sending us music because it keeps me alive.
I know we've hit you with a lot of hard-hitting questions. My hard-hitting question up next is, Sylvester loved ham sandwiches. What is the perfect ham sandwich recipe?
Oh, good question. Also depends on your application. If it's like a quick grab lunch, you want to keep it in one hand. I shouldn't go into why for the old VR booth, but right. The VR tank. So there's like your elegant sandwich at home, and then there's like the lunch sandwich. Lunch sandwich is, whatever, just like slap it together. But I say toasted sourdough instead of the rye situation. And Trader Joe's has a good sourdough. I don't know how specific I should do. They also have this rosemary ham. It's very good. I say sometimes it's a little too moist, but tomato, a slice of tomato, just a ton of mayonnaise. I would say Swiss cheese, except that I found out I'm allergic to dairy, so I cannot do that anymore. And then pickle on the side instead of pickle on it. If you're in the mood for, it depends on like that flavoring, but I do the baby spinach, just a little bit of baby spinach on it as well. Half toast the bread, mayo on both sides, and that is your ham sandwich.
That's fucking delicious.
I'm so hungry.
So
right
good.
now.
It's so
So
good.
good.
But you have to eat it right away because you don't want the tomato, and that's why you want to half toast it, because the tomato will soak through. The slicing of tomato and how you can't put the tomato on and then put it in your lunchbox and take it to work for the VR booth.
No.
You have to you'd have to put the tomato on the side, right?
Yeah,
You'd have to
and I would even say for lunch stuff like shitty white bread, like it's almost fun to have it almost like that smashed in. Still lots of mayo though. Love the mayo. But you almost kind of want it smashed in and loose and thin. I would still toast it, but that like when it gets all like messed up, like ham sandwiches are so forgiving, and they're, you know, the ultimate goal of a ham sandwich, yes, to keep you alive, but to comfort you, make you feel comfortable. Like this is like you're taking care of yourself right now, and it doesn't take much, especially with a ham sandwich. Salty protein is like it's very satisfying. But yeah, the tomato is a precarious thing, and I love my favorite sandwich actually is a tomato sandwich, straight up tomato sandwich, which is very little. Like you can put one slice of ham on it, but the full on tomato sandwich is also amazing. Sourdough, mayo, same shit, salt and pepper. But with a ham sandwich, you want very little tomato, and you need to be able to eat it right away because it will fuck with the moisture of the bread. This has gotten way more involved than we need to.
No, that's the perfect ham sandwich recipe.
Yeah, I'm just imagining you watching the inauguration in January with like "Clap Your Hands, Say Yeah" playing and a ham sandwich, and just the tears adding some additional flavor there.
Well, you're wrong about watching the inauguration.
Yeah, just skip it entirely. So, if Westworld existed and Lee Sizemore was going to develop a custom narrative for you and Felix, what would that look like?
Now, is that Ptolemy and Felix or Sylvester and Felix? Because there is a slight difference between Ptolemy and Sylvester.
Let's say if it was actually a custom narrative for you and Leonardo now.
Oh, wow. Well, did you mean Sylvester originally? Like,
no, I meant the two of you as people.
Oh man, inside the park or in that? Is it like a spinoff of like just Body Shop spinoff?
No. Let's say the two of you are going to Westworld. It was real.
Oh man, have you ever seen this old movie called what is it? Apple Dumpling? The
Apple Dumpling Gang?
Is that what it is?
That sounds right in my brain. I don't know why.
And I remember that. It's like a Western. Let's all Google it together.
Google it. Yep. Oh yeah. Don Knotts and Tim Conway.
Don Knotts and Tim Conway just wandering around the West, like just fucking up, like having good intentions, but like, what are you doing? I don't know. You said this. It's like, oh, now our donkey's gone. Just like kind of like misadventures in an old school like Disney way where we try to mess with things that are way beyond us and get smashed. Leo plays like the well-meaning person that tries to keep us out of trouble, and then I play the ambitious one that's like, we got to go for more, man, in a much more like aggressive but foolhardy way, and then we get into misadventures basically.
That's great. You mentioned during your AMA that you approached the character Sylvester when you're down in the body shop. You said that Sylvester interpreted the hosts, as giant iPhones.
Yeah.
Has working on Westworld made you question your own personal electronics and whether or not they're trying to kill you?
Working on Westworld? No, I mean, over the time that we've worked on Westworld, shit's changed. And so now I have like tape over my camera on like every like hopeful human being that thinks that will do anything to counter like hacking and the depths to which people that we share like way too much and that everybody can get into that. Now, I don't know if it's Westworld. Westworld makes me more concerned about like our own mortality and how much we are not necessarily like machines, but certainly constructs of something. Like, what the fuck is life? Anyways, like me more as an entity, and what is afterlife? What is God? What was the whole purpose of all this stuff? Stuff like that. It makes me anxious as a host of the planet Earth. But the electronic stuff comes more from like Snowden and all that. That was much more alarming than Westworld. Is that an answer? I guess it was a joke question. I should have been more jokey about it.
No, that's I mean, listen, wherever you want to take the questions, but yeah, no, Snowden. If you watch the movie is great. That was just released this summer, directed by and written by Oliver Stone. But if you watch the documentary of Snowden, I think it's was it Citizen 4?
Yeah,
it's some scary shit.
That's great.
And I think what's even scarier is like we live in an information age now, and we don't know what's real and what's not. And that's even scarier.
Yeah.
In my opinion. Anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, Westworld is like bigger questions, but there was an article today that two of the AI or like several of the AI machines Google has created are sending each other coded messages.
Yeah. Yeah. And we don't know what they're saying.
And yeah. They're just starting to talk to each other. So yeah sure. I mean, that's like that. I guess it's a Westworld thing, but that is a singularity thing.
Shut that shit down. Unplug it.
Well, you want to brick it, Raj? Is that what you said?
I want to brick that shit right now.
Let me go in there, guys. I got this. Send me in there. Send me into Google. I got a plan, and it's going to work.
Yeah. So, Ptolemy, you mentioned that you followed fan theories on Reddit. Yeah. Do you follow any fan podcasts, and what are some of your favorite fan theories that you've seen out there?
I don't do podcasts very much. I do this one, but I'm actually doing it. But I don't have I don't have that kind of like time, or I don't have that relationship to listening to things. I do NPR all the time. So I've been listening to podcasts. I take things in better on that message board stuff, and they were amazing. I really do like the fan theory genre as a mode of communication, because you're given, and this show really, in a way that other shows, and I don't know if it's even intentional, it seems intentional, but they just provide blocks. They provide Lego blocks, and then people are like putting them together in insane ways. But what an interesting relationship to both each other, to information. Like, I really like it. And they're still doing it afterwards. Like, I'm still dealing with elements of the finale and what have you. I like it. So I really like the fan theory stuff. My favorite one, I guess, would have to be more with Sylvester, but I like the idea that this VR tank situation we've mentioned several times, it has a ham sandwich and a nubile redhead load up the VR tank. And I like the fan theory that the nubile redhead is simply a younger version of Sylvester and that he only has sex with himself.
That's epic. The closest we received was, Gene, do you remember the fan theory that someone wrote in an email to this and said that Felix and Sylvester are on their own vacation planned by Lee Sizemore? Like that's their Westworld experience, that they wanted to be body shop technicians. And this is just all a big narrative.
Yes. Yeah. People are so crazy and they have such weird fetishes. Like, how is that not possible? Like, that would make total sense. And like, wouldn't you want to do that? To be like, I want to imagine working there. Like, even in Foxconn, which is Apple's like insane workshop, that Apple's on top of, but that's kind of like where we're working, and like at the Foxconn. Wouldn't it be interesting to work there for a day? To be like, what would this be like? I don't even think it would be pleasant, but the unpleasantness I would still pay for, just to see what life is like that. So that's a valid concept.
Yeah, I compared it to the fact that like you can take VIP tours at Walt Disney World. I worked for Walt Disney World for 10 years, and you can actually take tours of the tunnels. You can go underneath and see where all the employees are. You have to pay extra for that. And there are people who do that. Why? Yeah, go ride Space Mountain. No, that's crazy.
No, because you want to know how things work. And I'm that kind of gamer, like Red Dead Redemption, which is the easiest thing to like equate over, is just like get on horse, ride straight in one direction, see where the end hits and how they manage the end of this thing, and see how they program things to come up to you. Like, just how things work is fascinating. What the underbelly of things are, and I think the show kind of knows that and plays with. That's the other reason why I kind of like our characters, because it's the real underbelly, not the like behind the scenes, the actual underbelly. The lower class human beings that have to like deal with this shit. I like that kind of stuff, so I would pay for that. Even in Disneyland, like I would pay to be a mascot for one day, and then they would fire me because I would do something horrible just because I'm only here for a day. It's been
my life.
Yeah.
Why is Mickey bleeding internally? I don't know.
Mickey is really kind of like picking up people. Why is he picking up people?
In the season finale, Armistice warns Sylvester to stay put, blows him a little kiss. Do you think Sylvester complied, or did he make a run for it?
I like the Schrodinger cat version of this, that we do not know the answer to this until 2018. So I would love it either way. Like if he just dies there, because technically he both exists there and doesn't exist there until we find out otherwise. So this is my most enjoyable part. But beyond that, actually, I'm fascinated with this question myself. And this goes to my own relationship to the character is I do not know. And I don't even know the core of this character as much as the creators do. And what I was given are the scenes. And what I can do is create an understanding of what this character is by his choices. And in some ways, I would understand like what's next or how he works. And I mean, you look at the pilot, which was episode 2 for us, like that stuff that we shot for the pilot. I didn't know anything. I knew that I didn't want this thing to be alive. I'd never seen this before, is all the information I'd seen. Nothing like this has happened before. So what the fuck is happening is all I get. I know this about this guy. That's what I know. And now we're dealing with a Sylvester that has changed. And this show is so interesting on so many levels. And one of them is the writing, but not the writing of the big concepts, but that they give every character an arc. Like they really, and when you have 2 years, maybe you get this opportunity, but Sylvester could have been a thin, single line character where it's like, we know what he's going to say. But in reality, Sylvester's changing. Like he's not ready for any of this. So I actually don't know how he's going to react. I don't know if he would stay there. I don't know if he's taking this in the way of like, now I will get revenge, or if he's taking this way of like, oh, I just witnessed something that is beyond me and I'm humble. Like, which way does Sylvester go with this? We don't know enough about him to actually know that, in my opinion. And so I would find out, whenever that ever continues, or if it ever does. So I would be guessing as much as anybody. And I kind of like that. Like, I'm interested in how does someone that is that egotistical, that has such an idea of themselves built up for so much time, and all of that ego is like ripped away, and you are nothing compared to me, and you're faced with that, like how do you react? And I think people can react in any direction. So I would be interested to see how he takes it and what he's doing next.
Is this confirmation that we will see Felix and Sylvester in season 2?
No, it is not confirmation, because I do not know. I have zero control over any of that. So that may have been the last moment you see him. That may not. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. And that has been my entire relationship to the show the whole time. Just absolutely out of control of it. And it's kind of like, I don't know. I think it's okay for the acting part of it. It's an interesting relationship to have.
So if you were to come back, or even looking back at season 1, which one of your castmates that you didn't get to work with would you have liked to have had a scene with?
Oh, man. I really liked having a scene with Hector. I was attracted to Hector. I mean, like, man, the randomness of what we got to interact with, which was very little, was so cool. Because all of these actors are so awesome. Like, Ingrid is so funny and awesome. I mean, I only ran into some of these people like once, and some of them I never ran into. So literally any of them would be kind of a new and fascinating delight. And I met most of them. But, man, how do you not answer Anthony Hopkins with that? Like, how do you... I would be so nervous. It'd be such a test to see if I function as a human being. And it's a kind of like a Sylvester test of like, where, like, how confident are you, like, working with, because these people are good, man. These people are so good. Like, how do you even function as an actor in the face of such insanity? It's really I just love this. It's been such a joy to like work on this thing, because it's not only the actors, it is the production is at such a fascinating level, because I don't think people realize how hard it is to shoot in glass. You don't see sets like that. I don't know if people realize that. They realize that it looks different and there's something to it, but they took on so many difficult, like, everyone's functioning at such a high level that all of us have to like just accelerate your game to get up to this point. And that was the whole journey. It's always a challenge, even just to function at all. It's such a joy. So any one of these, like, man, Ed Harris, I've loved forever. What would happen if I don't know, man.
they're just like they're like people that you like them so much that you kind of like see yourself as them. It's like, oh man, that guy is so smart. Like that Anthony Hopkins is doing something when he is acting that is not measurable, you know? So it's kind of there. You can't. Oh man, I don't know. I can't answer this. I would love any of them because every single person, it is a little bit like being in your own classroom where we're in detention. So every time we interact with anybody, it's like, hey, and it was so much fun.
That's right. And I'm telling everyone about this, but if you have the time, I think it's about like a 10-minute video, but it's a YouTube video by the Nerd Writer, and he breaks down the scene between Anthony Hopkins and Sidze when the characters Dr. Ford and Teresa, when they're on the terrace and they're having lunch together, that power lunch scene.
Yeah.
And they break down in just a paragraph of text and a paragraph of script how masterful Anthony Hopkins is in breaking down the words and conveying different emotions. It's masterful. It's insane. And I can imagine like there's a vulnerability, even though like, yeah, you're elevating your game. You've been doing this, you know, however many years, like there's still a sense of like, I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to embarrass them. I don't want to embarrass the producers. I don't want to embarrass the directors. Like I imagine that's just got to, you know, weigh heavily on you as an actor going in there.
Yeah, it is. I mean, whenever you're doing any acting, there is a moment. It's almost like a football team where it comes down to a thing. But this thing, when you see, there's a moment where it's either just me or any single person on screen. That is the end result of thousands of human beings all pushing up this moment so that it can exist. And you are just the final edge on the top of this like blade that is cutting through non-existence into existence. And so you're just holding up the very final element, even like the people that like schedule these things, the people that like make the contracts. There's like a billion, of course, the writers, like there's so many things that hold, and all you want to do is carry the distance. You must hold up that moment to the greatest ability of any human being that is doing that particular moment. You're not only letting yourself down, you're letting all of these things down. So it's not just about caring about it. You also must release from that pressure so that you can do your job. And your job is to be yourself and to be alive. So it's not only just handling that moment and having respect for it and giving it the attention and energy that it requires, but also releasing from that and knowing that you must bring yourself to that. And not only are you enough for that moment, but you are the only thing that can answer for that moment. So you can't possibly try to be someone else, or you're not holding up the moment that they need. They need you, and they need you to be at your best, and they need to be you at your most personal. And so in some ways, all of that pressure, you not only have to accept, but you have to release from so that you can be exactly what you need to be right then. And that is all of it. Like it's a weird challenge, almost like a golf game where releasing from it is the pattern of striking better. Does this make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah, it definitely does. And you talk about that high level of excellence that everyone is performing at time. And, you know, I imagine it's, you know, again, it's just like anything else, any sports event. It's anything that you got your adrenaline going and you come into work, you're prepared. You got to make sure that you carry this ball forward. But I imagine there's probably some levity that happens also behind the scenes, right? Were there any big pranksters? And if so, like, what was your best backstage story associated with that?
Oh, yeah.
How'd you guys have fun?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that is a little bit of my, what is it? What, like a technique? What pattern? I don't know. Like for me to function on set, I'm constantly like working on almost jokes or interplay because you have to keep yourself constantly engaged with the world around you, depending on what you need to do in the scene. But like, it's a constancy for me. So that it's very helpful to work with an awesome crew. And first of all, Leo is a lot of fun, but also like in a Sylvester Felix way, he is my audience because I try to like get him somehow. And then you work with like Tandy, who is a hilarious human being, totally like you do not ever predict where she is going to be because she has characters that she will fall into that are that will get you. She does this Valley Girl like California Deep Valley girl that is so offensive. She's like, oh my God, you guys. And it's, what is the valley? I can't even like think of it now. But it is so.
It's like Clueless. Like what?
Oh my
like
God.
are we having a conversation right now?
Doing that?
Like everything ends with a question.
That's it. And it's just now you're just working with that. It's unbelievable. Also, we would, because a better time to do bits is when you're like getting prepped, because that's just like time. So even like sometimes we would FaceTime each other in the makeup chair. But Tenny also like buys those like trinkets for people. She's incredibly like generous people. One of them was like you touched your genitals, which was one of those like, what is that, hand sanitizer? And so It would just be an image of that just on your screen, like you touched your genitals. Just like like inappropriate, hilarious, constant. I don't know. It was a very pleasant experience I think that comes out of also the pressure. Like the pressure is there that it's like good to maybe
you have to have a release. You have to have a release to have a balance. Yeah. Without a doubt. I know we're a little bit past time, but we just have a couple more questions to close out if that's okay with you, or how much time do you have?
Yeah, I have 15 minutes.
Okay. Perfect.
So, speaking of Tandy, there was a GIF released by Westworld HBO that shows a naked Felix and Sylvester dancing around a clothed Tandy Newton. What's the story behind that? And did she know that you guys were going to do that?
Yeah. I don't know how much I can say about that thing. That was, it's a very secretive set. You're not allowed to have your cell phone on set. I never even read anything. And the fact that we were shooting on set was a gift. Later. So that was like a fun thing we were doing. We were making, I guess I'll say this part. We were making a video for the wrap party. So when we were wrapping, so this was the last day that we were there. People went to lunch and we had exactly 10 minutes because like that camera was not supposed to be there. So it was very like precarious, and it's like, all right, get your clothes off. We're doing this now. So we had like 10 seconds, handed over my costume to Tandy, and it was a rap song. It was like this rap song that we kind of like wrote and produced for the rap party. And that was just one of the elements of it. And Jonah and Lisa clipped that out and put it into a GIF or GIF, depending on if you want to believe the creator. And that's where it is. So yeah, we did all that on purpose. It was a lot of fun, and certainly well-deserved on her part. What a joy.
Well, during your AMA, again, on Reddit, you mentioned that you talk about the rap parties. You mentioned that you get to, those of you who didn't get to interact with on screen, you got to interact, at these rap parties, some of your Westworld castmates. You dubbed Luke Hemsworth as the god of parties.
Oh, man.
Do you care to elaborate on the God of Parties moniker?
I actually agree with myself, but I probably shouldn't say that. I shouldn't say that out loud. That guy is amazing. First of all, Australian. So that should already take care of the God of Parties part. If you have any Australians in your life, you know what I mean by that. Their parties are so great. There's one thing about Westworld that is interesting to me, that there's more family in Westworld than you would think. Everybody has families, and the families are like a priority. I think there's this thing like that I imagine, especially coming from a small town in California, where like Hollywood is about egotism and it's about like self-serving. And the more that I've done it and the more successful people I've met, it's kind of more about other people, like finding what you love and having that love, and then doing your job because you have like a core in your life, and a lot of that is family for people. I don't know why I'm talking about this right now, but Luke has an awesome family, and even at these parties, like family is present, so it's kind of cool. But I do have a photo of Luke standing in a full body He-Man costume for his birthday, raising a sword above his head over his cake, which was a Pac-Man with a candle in it, eating some other like 80s variant. Like, the dude knows how to party.
That's great.
Oh my God, we're seeing the photo right now.
We're seeing the photo right now. That's brilliant.
That is incredible.
This dude, it's a Rubik's cube on top of a Rubik's cube. Like this guy, and look who else is here. It's like children. You know what I mean?
That's
like,
amazing.
It is just party.
That's so cool. I assume that comes from the top down. Jonah and Lisa Joy set up that type of environment.
Yeah,
where
you
it feels
cannot.
comfortable.
Yeah, you. One thing I have learned, being like mostly, what is that? Where you pass through things, like,
A ghost?
no,
A poltergeist?
who is that person that wanders like a vagrant? Not a vagrant, but a
hobo?
Come on, guys.
A transient.
Take some podcast lessons.
A transient.
Yeah, transient is fine. Like, I'm often a transient in shows, so you'll see a lot of shows. So I've seen a lot of sets, and when there is a humanity priority on a set, that the set is, it's not just the best, but it's also good people. And that comes from the top, the very top down. It is either a set where the people are good and that they all like function as human beings, or it's a set that's like, let's just do, and then get anybody that's either like less expensive or just does the job without any concept of a kind of a moral compass almost.
Right.
And this show is just full of amazing people. The entire cast is just amazing people. We just got nominated for a SAG award as a cast, and we have people on the show that are incredible. So I get it on the quality side, but man, on the personal side, I am just looking forward to seeing these people again. Like, to be able to hang out with these human beings is, I don't know. It's just been fantastic. What was your question?
No. We'll go back to the question, but it definitely seems that way. Like, when you talk about honesty, I know we talked about that when we first started. The honesty in creativity endeavors, right? That's what I think we're progressing towards now as an audience. We want that honesty, and to see not only a show execute at the level that Westworld did, but then also see the cast react and come together on these new award shows, and like the camaraderie and the brotherhood and the sisterhood associated with everything, like just the online, you can tell like it's an honest, like you guys really seem to care about each other for reals. It's not an act. It's not a publicist that's taking your Twitter account and tweeting the publicist of Tandy Newton. You guys are generally talking to each other, and it's just great to see that from a fan perspective, to see how much you guys not only loved each other and produced an amazing show, but like you all care about, the success of it and each other on your own personal projects after this. And I think that's just great. It's refreshing to see.
Is that? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I've never been a part of something else like this. This is all fascinating to me. But for me, man, it's real. I don't know how it comes across to anyone else. And maybe I'm the wrong person to ask because this is new to me. Maybe like the more experienced people are like, yeah, this is just like whatever. But it doesn't see like I deeply respect these people. Even people that I did not even meet. If you look at the human character of like Jimmy Simpson, who I only met like on Twitter and at like a rap party, never worked with, but what a fascinatingly cool guy. And I just feel like a camaraderie with him as a human being, not even that we just shared our own show, but like look at the caliber of human.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. It seems like a legit thing to me.
Definitely. I think it's definitely a legit thing, and you're living it. And you're right. These things don't come along every so often. Like, this is like when something like this hits, it's almost like a once in a lifetime kind of opportunity. I think anyway, Gene, the question was,
I think the term that we were looking for is journeyman.
Yeah. That's a nicer way. It's a slightly nicer word than hobo. Can you see how that would have been a nicer thing to say?
So huge HBO hits that you were on: The Sopranos, The Wire, now Westworld. Will we ever see you carrying a sword or riding a dragon in Game of Thrones?
Oh man. See, like, I've been so lucky to be on these shows on a fan level. Like, that thing where you're like, if I was that guy, I would feel like, I got on that show. That is what it feels like. It feels like literally like, like, just like, I would love to collect more shows. And by that, I mean, like, I would be a dead person. I would be half of a head on the ground in the background just to like at all be on that. I really wanted to be on Battlestar Galactica, that shot in Canada. And I was like, I will walk there Just like, I just want to like anything having to do with that show. And man, I know Game of Thrones is like does not shoot in this country, so it would be hard. But man, I would pay to go there. I would just like, I should never say any of this based probably on my manager or lawyer. But man, I would just want to like just show up at all in these shows. They're so good that it's almost like a game of like tag or something. I don't know, man. And some of these shows, some of the greatest shows I have ever seen, I don't understand how I am on them. It does not make sense to me. Like The Wire is the greatest viewing experience I've ever had. The greatest. I mean, I happened to shoot that show. I was just this like smallish part. I didn't know where it was going. It ends up that I have to work the last day they ever shoot. And then they gear this the very last day that they're shooting. And every scene is somebody's last scene. And they stop production and there's like tears and speeches and flowers. And then they move on. And because I was in a scene with McNulty and Bunk, my scene was supposed to be at like noon, and it kept being moved, and then it was shifted to the very last scene of the day. 3 a.m. in the morning, the final day of the final episode of The Wire, and it's McNulty and Bunk and some random dude named Ptolemy just sitting. It's like the most mind-bending experience of my life. And maybe that's good training for like Westworld, but God, what an honor. It just doesn't make sense to me how lucky that is. And to me, it's not lost on me. Like I'm still flip out about it. It's just such a crazy fun thing. So yeah, these shows are like, they mean something, I think, even as like, I don't consider, I'm not that show, but to have ever been a part of it is just like such a blast. It's a lifelong thing. I had a chess teacher once say, this is a self-gratifying story. I don't know.
Tell it. No, there's no going back now.
I played chess a little bit in high school. Obviously, I'm a nerd. But I ended up winning this like the lowest division of the Ohio State chess competition. So I won this like, it was a 3-foot tall trophy. And it takes, it's like 3 days, like 6 hours a day. It's like insanity. I basically just survived. And so I won that. And right afterwards, my chess teacher, one of the greatest people I ever met, said to me, just remember this, no one can ever take this away from you. No matter what happens, no matter where else goes, nothing, no one will ever take this. You will always have this thing. And it's not the trophy, it's that it happened. And that's the same feeling with these shows. And I certainly don't deserve it. And I don't know if I like deserve these things, but they are things that even after they're done, that the honor of ever having been a tiny part of them stays with you really your whole life.
That's awesome. And I think that's great advice too for people who are, looking towards goals and like they accomplish stuff and sometimes they don't appreciate the fact that they've accomplished a goal. And
yeah, man,
you have to do that. That you have to keep saying to yourself, yeah, I'm good enough. I'm going to keep moving forward and enjoy this moment.
Coming to terms with your victories, it helps the process.
Agreed. And you have to set that goal first, right? You have to set it, then you accomplish it, then it's okay to enjoy it, but never lose that drive that got you to that goal in the first place. At least I've discovered.
For the things that you didn't even deserve. Be thankful for them. Accepting them in a thankful way justifies them. I think we reject our steps forward in an attempt to, again, that idea of change, to keep us the same. And we think our hunger comes from all of our failure or what have you. But that's a part of your change, is to, even if that's not you, like you didn't deserve it, you still accepting it and being thankful for it gets you to a better place.
Absolutely.
Sorry.
No. Listen, this has been it's been a wonderful interview on our behalf. I've definitely enjoyed it. Last thing, I know that there's a lot of fans that are asking, will you show up at any Comic-Cons or fan conventions now? Is that going to be on the schedule for 2017?
I don't know what that is. That guy, some friends at Meltdown were like talking about that. I don't understand it. I would love to do it. I love talking to people. I consider myself a fan myself, so I don't really have a problem. But I don't understand. I don't have any plans for that. I don't understand what it is. But I like those things. I'm interested. I am going to Comic-Con in San Diego next year. I go there usually with like Nerdist or like the Nerd School or whatever. But if anybody dresses up as Sylvester, I want to know, and I would love to take a picture with you because I feel like that would be fun. I guess on Twitter, it's at Ptolemy. But if you are in the San Diego area, let's just like line up and take some fucking pictures together because that would be fun.
So at Comic-Con in San Diego for couples outfits, what do you think will be the most popular Comic-Con cosplay outfit? Would it be Hector and Armistice, Bernarnold and Dolores, William and the Man in Black, or Felix and Sylvester?
I think it'll be, first of all, Sylvester, of course. I think Sylvester would be super fun. And also not a horribly, I think Ray was an awesome character because it's accomplishable and you can do the hard version or the easy version. I love these costumes that they have because you could do a shitty version of a tech or, as detailed as you want. That'd be awesome. I think a great couple's costume would be maybe Sylvester and a naked host. That would be kind of like not fully naked, but like walking around, or like Felix and that scene where Felix and Tandy is walking.
Gene and I already have planned out our Sylvester and Felix cosplay costumes for 2017, so we'll be sure to send you a couple photos of that. But
if it didn't shock everybody, I would go as Armistice, just like fully naked, fully tattooed. Just a full snake, but maybe like a real snake that like covers my genitals.
There you go.
Like wrap a snake around you. Oh man, I love her.
Takes a whole snake. Wow.
Yeah, that's Gene's favorite character as well, Armistice. Ingrid seems like just an amazing person.
She is so great.
But anyway, I know we've reached the time. I know we've got to cut this now, but thank you so much for coming on the show. Is there anything else you'd like to discuss or ask us or ask the fans?
I don't think so. I've really enjoyed going through this process with other human beings. So I don't know what good that I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. But yeah, let's talk anytime. I'm always interested in this process.
Is there anything that you've got, between now and 2018, if you were to do a season 2, is there anything else you've got going on? Any projects for 2017 you're excited about?
Not particular, like that I'm working on.
Right.
No, I do the school teaching. We're building up this acting program that I'm excited about because it changes your relationship to things to teach it. So I've been really liking that. And so we've built that out to 2 levels. I mean, this is just what my life is. I like teaching. That's what I've been working on. So this school is my big thing, but I don't have any other acting roles. But yeah, I was also on Preacher.
Yeah.
It's not, they have a hell. I don't know. So who knows? Who knows? There's stuff that can happen, but I'm not the kind of actor that has shit lined up.
So if people are in the Los Angeles area and want to know more about the Nerdist School, where would they go?
Nerdistschool.com. We have shows on the weekends. I do shows on Sundays, usually at 9 every Sunday.
And if you mentioned your Twitter, is there anywhere else that fans, if they want to follow you, Instagram or Snapchat or anything like that?
No, man, I don't know what to do with this Instagram thing because that's for my family. Those are my kids' pictures. So I think I just need to make it private, maybe make a second Instagram. I don't know what to do with this. This is all new. By the way, you guys would have never spoken to me 8 weeks ago. You know what I mean? This is all brand new. So we're all dealing with this in a new way. But I think I really like Twitter. I was not really on Twitter prior to this, and I really like it as a kind of clean, small way to interact with people. So that's what I'm kind of transferring to that. At Ptolemy, I accidentally signed up for Twitter right when it started as a way to text friends. This is what Twitter was way back. So I have at Ptolemy easily, which I'm sure would have been harder later because I'm an early adopter for a totally different reason. And then when it became less it's just a group text, it will send a text to all of your friends. When it stopped being that, I was nah, no, thank you. And now I'm back on it. So very cool. More information than you wanted.
No, that's great. Well, again, on behalf of Gene and Big D, who couldn't make it, unfortunately, he's on family duty today. Again, thank you so much from all the fans. I know they're going to be excited to hear you, and we hope to have you back on next year or right before the start of Westworld.
Cool, man. Anytime. It was
Awesome,
fun, guys.
brother.
Good talking. Great questions, by the way.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.